I got too drunk on games night and kissed my lover in front of my husband when we got home. The truth is something that we all struggle with, and a lot of us try to hide as much truth as possible. But the reality of life is that the truth comes out one way or the other. It cannot be hidden for long. And my truth came out in the worst way possible. It was careless. Some might even call it stupid. I mean, when serious and life-changing secrets are revealed, it always involves some dramatic and overwhelming event that makes everyone feel the weight of what is being revealed. But the way my secret came out, it was almost too easy to believe, and it was so casual. But the secret was so great that it broke everything in my life. My name is Julia, and I'm a 27-year-old botanist who was married to the best man that ever walked the face of the earth, Brad. Brad wasn't your regular man. He had all the good parts you wanted from a man, and almost none of the bad. He was handsome, and I'm not talking about regular handsome. I mean, he's the type of guy that would walk past a row of women at a football game, and they would all turn to look at him. He was beautiful and tall, and as charming as the morning sun. And my goodness, he was kind, but strong. Loving, but firm. He would defend me anytime, anywhere, and I was confident in his ability to do whatever I needed him to do. Brad loved me just as much as I loved him, and he showed it at every chance he got. When he met me, my parents were on my neck about my choice of career. They wanted me to do something more professional, like being a lawyer, a doctor, or an engineer, something of that sort. They saw being a botanist as a job, but when I met Brad, he believed in me. He saw what even I couldn't see, and with his help, I opened my very own flower shop. It was difficult in the beginning, but I soon got a hang of it. And if I'm being honest, my business only survived because of Brad. He was the one that made his coworkers buy flowers for their desks from me. He steadily convinced them to buy flowers for their girlfriends and wives, and whenever any of them were getting married, he made sure that I was the one that supplied the flowers for the wedding. He took my dream and made it a reality. He was the one who showed my parents how successful I could be in the business I was doing. And it was only after he showed them how much money I was making that they began taking me seriously. He would constantly send them pictures of the events I decorated with flowers of the ones I supplied flowers for. The bigger the event, the better, and my parents got off my back. Like I said, he was everything to me. He was the very bedrock of my life. But I guess humans really are flawed. Because even with everything Brad did for me, I still couldn't get over the little he didn't do. Brad didn't like getting in the kitchen and couldn't cook to save his life. He would do anything, absolutely anything and everything, but he would not and could not cook. Whenever I tried to teach him, he'd tell me he had other things to do. And truly, he did have a lot on his plate. He was just promoted, and he was shouldering a lot of responsibilities. He was very busy, and I knew this, but whenever I called, he answered the call immediately. Whenever I needed him, he'd come running with immediate effect. At some point, he needed to start working late hours and even staying at work overnight, and that caused a serious strain in our lives because I couldn't sleep alone at night. Yes, I'm scared of the dark, and I don't like being alone, especially at night. That was practically the beginning of all our problems. I was unhappy when he told me that he wouldn't be as available at home as usual, and I begged him to try and come back home every night. But he told me that he couldn't make that promise. I was unhappy, but I had to face reality, and since I couldn't stay home alone, I decided to go stay with my parents. They stayed in the city as well. My mother teased and laughed at me about how I was an adult who was still too scared to be alone in the dark, but I didn't mind. I could go to my flower shop from my parents' house. Besides, I needed to be in my parents' house for only a week. The only downside was that I had to share a room with my younger brother, who was the most disorganized person I knew. But I kept telling myself that it was just for a few days. A week at most. But those few days were going to change my life, as I knew it. A day after I went back to my parents' house, I woke up in the morning to the smell of something delicious coming from the kitchen. I love food. I always said that there are 3 things I love the most: Brad, flowers, and food. I got up from the bed and went to the kitchen to see what was going on, and I met a literal surprise. I met Charles. He was average in height, but his sense of humor was through the roof. I asked him who he was because I had never seen such a human in my life, ever. And here he was, in my mother's kitchen. He looked at me like I was the intruder and asked me the same question. While we were both interrogating each other without any answers being given, my father walked in and asked what was going on. I told him that there was a stranger in the kitchen, and my father laughed and introduced Charles to me. He was the chef that handled things in the kitchen for my parents, since they didn't have the will or strength to do stuff like that anymore. I settled into a chair, but with the way things started out for me and Charles, the air between us was still tense. I ate the meal he prepared that morning before going to work. My husband called me while I was at work, just to talk to me. He missed me, and he was calling to let me know just how much he missed me. He couldn't talk for long because he had to get back to work. So the call soon ended. When I got home early that evening, dinner was ready. And of course, it was prepared by Charles. When I got in, I saw him setting the dining table. He greeted me, and I replied to him, but not with much enthusiasm. I first went to freshen up and change into more comfortable clothes before I came back to the dining room. My parents were already seated. I joined them, and when the food touched my tongue, I couldn't believe it. It was like I was walking on clouds. It was so delicious, and when I reacted with verbal expressions, everyone laughed at me. For the next few days, I saw Charles in the morning when leaving for work, and in the evening when I came back from work. And I began warming up to him slowly. Weekend came, and I was so happy to go back home. But while I was packing up, I got a call from Brad telling me that he wouldn't be coming home that weekend either. He asked me for one more week. I didn't like that. He promised me that he would be back after just 1 week. I could feel that he really wanted to come home, but he clearly couldn't. I was sad, and I told him he was going to make it up to me. He told me he'd definitely make it up to me, that he'd give me anything I wanted. I agreed and began unpacking all my things. My younger brother was unhappy when he heard that I wasn't leaving anymore. He wanted his privacy back, and I wish I was like him. Valuing privacy meant the ability to be alone. I had none of that. The next morning, I wasn't feeling too well, so I didn't go to work. I went into the kitchen to get some coffee, and I met Charles there. He knew immediately I stepped into the kitchen that something was wrong with me. He asked me to take a seat and gave me the coffee himself. My parents came to grab breakfast and left. My brother left for work as well. It was just Charles and I in the house. I was worried that he would leave the house, but I couldn't exactly ask him that. So I just decided that if he was leaving the house, I'd go out as well, and only come back when I knew my parents would be back home. I really didn't feel like working that day, so I just went along with what my body needed, which was a break from work. Charles and I got talking, and he said he wanted to ask me something. I told him to go ahead, and he asked if it was true that I was scared of being alone. I was embarrassed, and I asked where he heard that. He said he heard my parents talking about it the day I came over. They couldn't believe I was still scared of the dark and scared of being alone. He said he couldn't believe it either. I covered my face in shame and confessed that it was true. Before I could read the room, he gently held my hands and carefully pulled them away from my face and told me that I didn't need to be ashamed. Without blinking, Charles told me that everyone was afraid of something, so I didn't need to feel bad about mine. I felt so seen and understood, and I even smiled when he said it. I thanked him and went back into my brother's room. While I was there, checking out the pictures of some rare flowers on the internet, I heard a knock on the door. I knew it was Charles, and I asked him to come in. He came in with a glass of juice on a tray and offered it to me. He said it would help with my mood and even my health. I thanked him, and he was about to leave, but I asked him to stay and tell me about himself. I was curious. He sat on the bed and began talking. He was an interesting person and had lived an interesting life. It was an honest surprise that he was cooking for my parents. We talked for hours, and my goodness, he was funny. I couldn't stop laughing throughout the time we were talking. After our long talk, he told me that he needed to start preparing dinner. I asked if I could help, and he was more than welcoming. He agreed, and I went along with him to the kitchen. I watched him cook and only intervened when he asked for something. It felt nice having someone to cook for you because I understood how hectic that could be. I was with him in the kitchen until dinner was ready and stayed with him until my parents came home. He served the table and left for the day. While I was in bed that night, I couldn't get our conversations off my mind. Charles was the funniest person I had ever talked to in my entire life, and he was just as interesting. I kept thinking about him and smiling, and when my brother came back late that night and saw me smiling, he asked if my husband had sent me a gift. That was when I realized that I hadn't spoken to my husband all day, and I wasn't even bothered about it. I told myself that he would most likely be working, so I didn't need to disturb him. Maybe that was it, but deep down, I knew that I just wanted the memories I had with Charles to burn deep into my skull and occupy my thoughts. Those memories helped me sleep well at night, and I didn't want anything to interrupt them. The next morning, I woke up late. Everyone had left the house before I got up, and I was honestly shocked at how deep I slept. I'd normally wake up whenever my brother was preparing to go to work. I brushed my teeth and went to the kitchen, where I saw Charles. He was as happy to see me as I was to see him. He asked if I wasn't going to work that day. I paused for a second. I hadn't thought about that. I was supposed to go to work, but when I opened my mouth, what I said was no. I don't know why I said that. Flowers were the second thing I loved the most. I enjoyed doing my job. But there I was, in my parents' kitchen, with a man I just met over a week ago, and I was skipping work. Charles made a comment about how it was nice to have some company. He served me breakfast, and while I ate, I asked him if he was always there in the house after everyone left. He was hesitant, but he coughed it up, telling me that he usually leaves to go do some other things and only comes back early enough to prepare dinner, although sometimes he sticks around. While we were talking, he loosened his hair, which had been tied backwards. He had long hair, and that was the first time I saw it loose. He was even more handsome with his hair down, and I didn't know when I muttered that he was beautiful. He smiled at me and told me that it meant a lot coming from me because I was very beautiful as well. I blushed and looked away. By the time I tried looking at him again, he was right next to me. He looked into my eyes and said he was just noticing that my eyes were turquoise, not blue. He told me that my eyes were rare. As he spoke, he was just in awe of my eyes. But my heart felt like it had stopped beating for a few seconds and was now beating harder than ever. He was dangerously close, and my breath had stopped as a result of anxiety. He was still looking me in the eyes, and when he snapped out of the amazement of my eyes, that was when he realized just how close he was. Our faces were barely inches apart. It was like we were being drawn to each other. But I suddenly cleared my throat and said that I needed to go check out some things on my computer. I managed to break off the tension that was brewing between us, and I quickly went back to my room. I suddenly felt hot, so I went into the bathroom to take a shower. I was done in under 10 minutes, and when I came out of the bathroom, I began applying my body cream. I was still in a towel when there was a soft knock on the door that was followed by the door opening. It was Charles. He didn't wait for me to answer after he knocked, and because of how he opened the door, I was startled. My towel suddenly slipped and exposed my nudity. Charles looked starstruck. He couldn't move, blink, or even say anything. It was like he was lost in me. I quickly grabbed my towel and covered myself properly. All that left Charles's mouth was that he would come back later. He left, closing the door after him. I quickly put on a gown and hurried out to the kitchen, where I confronted Charles. I scolded him, asking why he didn't wait for me to answer before he opened the door. He apologized to me, saying that he didn't know what he was thinking. He said he did not know that I wasn't wearing clothes when he came into the room. After his apology, he added that I had a beautiful body. I paused when I heard that. I didn't know if I was supposed to be mad or flattered, but I was flattered, and I thanked him. He took a step closer to me and said that he couldn't get my body off his mind. I told him that he should stop thinking of me in such a sensual manner, because I was a married woman. He closed in on me, sniffed my neck, and told me that I smelled nice. I couldn't move, and I don't know why till this day. I asked him what he was doing, and he told me that he didn't know. He said he was just going with what he felt, and even told me that he knew I felt it too, and he wasn't lying. I felt every bit of what he was feeling. My entire body was tingling with desire. And before I knew it, he pushed off the sleeves of my gown, and it literally dropped off my body. Things got very intense between us, and we had a very passionate, intimate moment. And it didn't just happen once that day, it happened again and again. That was basically what we spent the entire day doing. We only stopped because he needed to prepare dinner and my parents were coming home soon. For the rest of the week, I didn't go to work. I'd spend the entire day at home with Charles, and he'd make me feel like a woman. I enjoyed every single moment with him, and by the time the week was over, I was hoping that my husband would call and tell me that he wouldn't be able to come back home, but he was parked in front of my parents' house that Saturday morning. I was so shocked to see him and very disappointed, but I had to mask that disappointment and wear a stupid smile. I rushed into his arms and told him how much I missed him. I lied. I had barely thought about him in the past week. My husband took me home, and I didn't even get to say a proper goodbye to Charles. I didn't have his number. That was it. When we got home, Brad whipped out some things he bought for me. These were things I would normally be so excited to have, and I was excited to have them, but I just missed the feeling of being with Charles. Still, I had to pretend to be very happy, like the gifts were the best things that had happened to me in all the weeks I hadn't seen my husband. Brad was determined to make it up to me for being absent for 2 whole weeks. He had the week off and was determined to spend every bit of it with me. He drove me to work and even hung out with me at work, helping me sell flowers. And when work was over, he took me to a restaurant for us to enjoy ourselves. He was pulling out all the big guns to make up for lost time. One day while we were at the shop, he noticed that I was lost in thought, and he thought I was being worried, when in truth I was thinking about how Charles felt. I missed Charles, and I wanted more of him. In trying to cheer me up, Brad proposed that we should have a game night. The idea sounded absurd to me, and I laughed when he said it. I told him that he had never hosted a game night. Every single time we've had game night, it was one of our friends that hosted it. I always wanted us to host it, but we just never did. And now, Brad was serious about hosting. We both laughed when I told him that he was a horrible game planner, and he confirmed that I was right. He started calling all our friends and telling them that we should have a game night. One of our friends said he'd host and gave us a time. We were all there by that time. It was almost impossible to wrap my head around how quickly it all came together. When I walked into the living room, I saw Charles sitting there. I froze, unable to understand what he was doing there. I looked at my husband, who was oblivious to the fact that I knew Charles. I needed to keep it that way. I pretended like I didn't know Charles. And thankfully, Charles was smart enough to play along. Our friend who was hosting introduced Charles to everyone as a friend of his who came around. He asked if we all didn't mind that there was an extra player. No one objected. In fact, they were all happy to have an extra player. The games began and the night was very entertaining. We played every game that could be played on game night. And what made it even more dramatic was that I sat between my husband and Charles. I tried my best to pretend like I didn't know him, but what was even harder was me trying to hold back as though the man I had been craving was not right beside me. I wasn't very good at playing games, so I drank a lot because I failed a lot. Then came the crazy one, truth or dare. I didn't like dares, and I was lucky that I kept picking cards with truth questions on them. I preferred truths. The game kept going smoothly, and at one point, I was asked the last time I was intimate. I told them I couldn't remember. The game went round again, then I was asked what the craziest thing I had done was. I laughed and said it was being intimate while cooking. I could see the naughty smirk on Charles's face from the side of my eyes when I said that. The next one was a dare. I dared to kiss someone that wasn't my spouse. I didn't drink or even overthink it. I just looked at Charles and smiled, like the world just gave me the luckiest raffle tickets. I grabbed him and kissed him. And I'm not talking about any mild 2-second kiss. It was long, intense, and the most passionate thing I had felt since Brad came home. After what felt like an eternity of pleasure, Charles and I stopped kissing. No one could believe it. The shock on the faces of each of our friends was overwhelming, but the game went on. I looked at my husband's face, and it was pure shock. It was clear he was beyond mad. Our friends tried to make sure nothing escalated by continuing the game, but that didn't subdue my husband's rage. He sprang up from where he was sitting and shouted that they should stop the game. I asked him what was wrong, and he looked at me like I was some heathen who had committed the worst sin. He asked me if I had lost my mind. I told him he was acting out of character, and he grabbed a bottle and threw it at the wall. He asked me not to dare speak of him of character when I was the one who buried my tongue in another man's mouth. Charles tried to calm him down by saying that we were all just playing a game. Brad furiously tried to attack Charles, but our friends held him back and pleaded with him to calm down. Brad's eyes were burning with rage, but Charles wouldn't shut up. Charles suddenly said that it wasn't his fault that he was a good kisser. Brad lunged forward and threw a punch that pushed Charles back. Our friends caught him again and pulled him back. They pleaded with him to calm down, and he suddenly announced that the game was over and told me to get up so we'd leave. Brad walked to the door before I could even get up. I looked at Charles and he smiled at me with the naughtiest smile I had ever seen. It made me blush before I hurried to go meet my husband. After we got home, just as I was about to take off my shoe, Brad stood in front of me and asked me who Charles was to me. My heart skipped a beat in fear. And before I could answer that, he asked that in all the years he and I had been married, where and when the two of us were intimate in the kitchen while cooking. That had never happened between my husband and I. The only time I had ever experienced something sensual in the kitchen was with Charles. I tensed up. I could have easily said that I lied to look cool, but my brain was processing things too slowly that night. I didn't say anything. He then asked me if I had cheated on him. I was still speechless. When I finally found my words, I told him that I didn't, that he was being dramatic. He shouted at me, saying that he knew something was wrong. I just kissed a stranger like if I had a chance, I would have gotten on the floor there with him and gone loose. He said that I must have known Charles from somewhere else, because I kept smiling at Charles and Charles kept smiling at me. I was shocked. My husband noticed all of it. He also added that I had been absent-minded whenever we were together since he got back. He asked me to be truthful with him. I told him that I didn't. He called me a liar. He said he knew that something was going on between me and Charles. He said he could feel it. He paced around the living room restlessly and angrily. Next thing I knew, he left the house. I was so scared that night, and I don't know if it was because of the alcohol, but everything felt a lot worse. I put on all the lights in the house, but that didn't stop the fact that I was alone in the house. I curled up in a blanket, scared, and cried throughout the night and when Brad came back very early in the morning. He was bruised and injured and drunk. I was so worried about him, but when I tried to check on him and asked him what happened, he pushed my hands off. He walked to the bathroom to go take a bath. I later learned that my husband had gone back to the place where we had the game night. He confronted Charles and things got intense. Charles bragged about how he made me feel loved and they exchanged fists. Charles apparently told Brad that if he was more present in my life and satisfied me more often, then I wouldn't have cheated. I wanted the earth to swallow me. Brad didn't speak to me after he came back, and he still hasn't. It's been weeks. I'm scared this is the end for us. Update. It's been about 2 months after that truth or dare night. My husband hasn't talked to me since then. He sleeps in the living room and refuses to even eat the food I cooked. He lives like he's living with a stranger who could kill him at any time. I tried pleading with him several times, but he would not take whatever I was saying. Whenever I tried talking to him, he would just put on headphones or he'd walk away. He stayed out more often, and every time he went out, I was scared he wouldn't come back home. I was scared that he would abandon me. One day I pleaded with him, and he angrily went into the bathroom to take his bath. When he came out of the bathroom, I was there pleading with him. He didn't say a word. He just got dressed, went to the car, and drove off. I was so scared that he wouldn't come back that particular day because of how outraged he looked when he left. But he came back at night. I was thinking he was worried about me being alone at night, but I was wrong. He simply grabbed some clothes and left. I tried asking him where he was going, but he didn't answer me. I slept alone that night, as I have been for some nights. I had a lot of nightmares, but I didn't want to go anywhere because that was exactly how I cheated in the first place. Slowly, my life began to decay. Brad was at home a lot less, and our friends all knew what happened, so most of them stayed away from me. His entire office stopped buying flowers from me, and before I knew it, Brad came home one evening and handed me 2 documents. One was divorce papers, and the other was a document basically asking me to pay rent to him or move out. I couldn't believe it. But what was even more jarring was the price he wanted me to pay for rent. Yeah, the house we lived in belonged to him, and there was no way I could afford that rent. He was just being inconsiderate and cruel, and I knew I deserved it. So he threw me out. Now, my business is dying, and my marriage is practically dead. I don't know where to go from here. Brad has abandoned me and moved on, but I don't know how to. I can't even visit my parents anymore because they are ashamed of me. I cheated on my husband in their house. I am the black sheep of the family, and it is humiliating. I don't see any redemption for me. My life is over. I had to pack my things to my flower shop because I had nowhere to go. I am lost and confused, and my life is in absolute shambles.
You know, sometimes we do things just because of lust or greed or... I don't know how I can put this, but we ladies sometimes do things without thinking, and when karma visits us, we start regretting and end up asking yourself what is wrong with you, or what if I did this or that? And if I didn't listen to, I wouldn't have gotten myself into this mess. A lot of things start ringing in your mind, and reality kicks in like an unexpected tornado. To tell the truth, I regret and will always regret what I did, because it showed how weak and not being able to avoid temptation I was. I miss him so much, but there is actually nothing I could do. I messed up, and it is not anyone's fault but mine. I had brought this upon myself. My stupid actions cost me my future love. I didn't know, okay. I got tempted only to find out that I got tempted in the wrong place and at the wrong time. Now I'm suffering the consequences. Please tell me what I should do. So my story goes like this. I, female 25, met this handsome man at a grocery store. I was going with my little sister, 13, trying to buy a few things for the family since it was almost time for Christmas. So this handsome man came into the food aisle that we were in. I think he was lost because he asked where he could get packs of M&Ms. I directed him to another store that sold bulk packs because he wanted bulk packs. My loud sister then told the guy that he looked cute. How embarrassing. Sigh. To my surprise, the guy smiled at her and appreciated the compliment. A few days later, I found out that he was actually staying around the neighborhood. I asked myself how come he didn't know where the M&M's bulk packs were sold if he was around. He liked morning jogs, so I saw him when I was taking out the trash. He saw me and greeted. I had thought he had forgotten about me, but surprisingly he didn't. So we had small chats and exchanged our names. He told me that he was Kevin, male 26. Our good conversation was cut off, but some old man, who I later figured out was his stepdad. So the man interrupted our conversation to tell him that he should get inside. I mean, I asked myself how old was Kevin to be told to get inside like he was a small boy. I don't know what tempted me to this old man, but whatever it was, I regret it so much. Before Kevin went inside his house, he asked for my numbers and told me that he would like to have friends around the neighborhood, since he had recently moved this side. I gladly gave him that, and that was how we started getting along. I remember when he used to visit me at home, my parents welcomed him with warm hands. We got along pretty well. He had a very charming smile, you know. I admired everything about him. You know when they say God took his precious time to make the most perfect human being? That was what he did with Kevin. His mother and father surely took time and chose which semens to use in order to give birth to a perfect man like him. As we got along, his stepdad would sometimes shout at him for spending time with me. I really don't know why. He was acting like I was the bad girl that any parent wouldn't be near their children. As much as I am an extrovert, I loved and still love going out and having fun. I was not a rebellious child that disappointed his parents. I was working at one of the good accounting firms in New York, name withheld for personal reasons, so I was not a disappointing child. So I would take Kevin out for some drinks as friends since he was not from Aurora, so I decided to show him our small town. I heard that he was visiting his mother since she was married to the stepdad, while he lived in Jersey City with his siblings only. Our friendship was a bliss, but his stepdad didn't like it, but we continued being friends despite his disapproval. One day I went to work, and to my surprise, Kevin's stepdad came to the office with regards to his business that was under rocks. He needed a tax manager to foresee where his business's tax money was going because in his own knowledge, he was paying his business tax. So my boss transferred him to me, and I managed to find what was wrong with his business accounts. So I found out that his accountant was actually stealing money from his business, and he was not paying taxes as he was supposed to. That time I didn't even tell Kevin that his stepdad had come to my workplace because I respected my work ethics and protocols. So everything that I was discussing with my clients were confidential, and I didn't think he knew that his stepdad was going through a tax crisis. I once suspected a lot of pretense between them, but he was tolerating him for his mom's sake. And Kevin loved his mom to a point that he would rather invade a space of someone who didn't like him, so he would see his mom. The relationship he had with his mom was really beautiful. His mom was a housewife. So you understand why Kevin loved visiting her. Because I am sure if she was working, he was not going to visit because his stepdad was home most of the time. I think that stepdad was into something illegal, I don't know what, but he was doing something doggy. He looked a bit off and intimidating. One would think he was a serial killer. I once asked Kevin how he was putting up with his stepdad and how his mom agreed to marry a scary man like that. To my surprise, my father was a friend of the stepdad. I found out that during a Thanksgiving holiday, Mom had invited them. I didn't like the way he was looking at me. I had noticed him looking at me like I was his favorite candy at a candy store. He was undressing me with his eyes, and that made me really uncomfortable. But I didn't tell that to anyone or took it seriously because he was old and my father's friend, and I couldn't just say something that I had no proof of right. The stepdad kept coming to my workplace, claiming he needed help with his business books. I didn't understand why because he had employees in his business, unless he was doing something illegal. But nonetheless, even those who do illegal businesses have employees, right? So it puzzled me to see him more often at my workplace, worst part, asking for my help, while he acts like a crazy bull when he is at his house, or when he sees me with Kevin, he would just become, I don't know how I can put, maybe a bear that is high on cocaine, trying to explain the stepdad's crazy act whenever I'm with Kevin. Time passed. Kevin kept coming to visit his mother, and we would spend a lot of time together. One would think we were dating, but we were not, because my mother once asked me what was going on between Kevin and I because she had seen the way he looked at me and the way he suddenly loved visiting his mom. I didn't pay any attention to that, because it didn't come to me that his visitations had become more regular than before. To tell the truth, the more I spent time with Kevin, the more I fell for him. I don't know if it was just a meaningless crush or it was the love that I felt, but I was feeling something for him. I wanted and longed for more than a friendship, But I would just tell myself that I was crazy if I thought I would get a perfect guy like Kevin. Surely he had a perfect girlfriend like him in Jersey City, maybe a model, I don't know. I tried showing him hints that I wanted more than a friendship, but he would either act dumb or he would bluntly ignore any action I did. I know it was kind of sluttish of me to try and show the guy that I wanted him, but I couldn't hold myself. His lips were so appetizing to a point that sometimes I would just stare at them when he talks and imagine myself tasting them someday. It's crazy, right? Funny thing that had happened was that whenever I spent time with Kevin, he would tell me that one day he would make me his lover. He was a smooth and sweet talker, Yes, I felt the same way as him, but I never thought he was serious about what he said. So I took it as a joke. He would always remind me that one day he was going to fetch me, so I would move with him to Jersey City, and that I was his future lover. But he wanted to fix something first. I took all that as a joke and thought he was just saying everything, because he wanted me to feel special. Not knowing that he was actually confessing his true feelings, I was pretty much in denial because there was no way a guy like Kevin would see a future with just a simple girl like me. I was just a simple and ordinary girl from Aurora who had a good job but was not lucky when it came to relationships. I was somehow self-doubting myself because of my past. Weeks turned to months. Kevin had stopped visiting. I thought he was busy with his girlfriend from Jersey City. That thought made me kind of jealous because I liked the guy, but he never noticed me. And another thing, I missed being in his presence. During those months, I tried calling him, but his phone was not going through, which made me worried, and I felt lonely because he had been the best friend I had never had. But all of a sudden, he decided to ghost me. I stayed with the guilt that maybe he saw my flirtatious acts and decided to stop being friends with me. But I would ask myself why he didn't tell that to me in the face, rather than to just ghost me. I was angry at him for acting like a coward. I was kind of disappointed at him for the coward act he did. Little did I know that his very own stepdad was the actual reason why Kevin was no longer visiting Aurora. It saddened me when I found out that, and worst part, I didn't know where Kevin stayed. I just knew that he stayed in Jersey City, and that was all. The stepdad once approached me and asked me to help him with some papers at his house. At first, I bluntly refused because the man was scaring me, and why the sudden change of heart? I mean, he never even greeted me, even if we bumped into each other in shops. Then he came to my house asking me to help him with papers. It was just hard buying that. It took him to ask my father that he needed my help with his papers since I was working at an accounting firm. Obviously, my father would ask me to help him on his behalf. I tried explaining to my father how scared I was of the guy, but decided to talk me out of it, so I eventually agreed. I mean, most of the time I was doing nothing at home. I was bored. Kevin was no longer visiting, and he had ghosted me all of a sudden. It did sting to me that he had changed on me right when I had thought I had found a friend. As much as I loved going out a lot, but I didn't have any friends, and Kevin became the friend I had never had. I hated him for going AWOL on me like that. I was also disappointed at myself for pushing the guy away because of my slutty actions. Days passed. I went to the stepdad's house, and to my surprise, Kevin's mother was not around, which made me kind of uncomfortable. I asked him where his wife was, and he told me that she had gone to Jersey City to visit her children. I asked myself, why would a woman leave his children behind and go live in another city? I mean, if I had children, I would never leave them all alone and move to another city. Some mothers' parents would rather leave their children behind so they would live with their man. I just didn't understand it. So Mr. Spencer, stepdad, showed me the papers he wanted me to help him with. We went through them together. I showed him where things were wrong, like the transactions of his business and what made the business delay paying their taxes. There were a lot of loopholes in his business's spreadsheets, but I managed to help and explain to him what was happening. He then tried to ask me to come and work for him, but I politely refused. I loved my job and I didn't see myself working for any other company. To my surprise, the stepdad was not all bad as I had thought or seen him. He was actually cool and friendly. So time passed. I kept going to his house, to help him, of course. He was also a great distraction for me to not think about Kevin. Yes, I missed him, but it didn't come to me that he missed me as well. Mr. Spencer was a fun guy. He was also smart, and he taught me a lot about businesses that I didn't know. That was how we became close. He was like an uncle that I had never had. Little did I know that the big jackal had actually an agenda to get me. Time passed, and I had become a regular at Mr. Spencer's home. His wife, Kevin's mom, knew that I was helping Mr. Spencer with his business books, but she didn't notice the way we had become close. Mr. Spencer had become what I call a mentor or a guardian I had never had. He was teaching me a lot about businesses, which made me have thoughts of starting my own business eventually. I once told him that, and he said he was going to give me the capital to start whatever business I wanted to start. Well, that was an appetizing offer, but I couldn't accept it. On the other hand, Kevin came once to see his mother, but we didn't talk. It was like we were total strangers, and that broke my heart because I had thought we were on good terms. I tried asking him on social media. He never responded to any of my texts or calls. I wondered what had happened or what had he heard about that would make him act weird and cold towards me. My heart would always shut whenever I think about it, and it did hurt me a lot to be in the dark about what was eating him. Was I in love with the guy? Months passed. I got tired of waiting and crying over Kevin. It was not like we were dating or something. So as hard as it was to forget about him, I tried. The guy had ghosted since I don't know when. Even the heart that loves also gets tired, right? What infuriated me the most was that he made me believe that I would somehow be his girlfriend, or we would be as close and tight as we were till eternity. But I had thought wrong. Instead, I got hurt and waited on something that was just a dream to me. During those months, Mr. Spencer became not only my mentor, but also my best friend. He gave me the attention that even my own father didn't give me. He became my motivator and the best guardian. Mom tried warning me about being close with Mr. Spencer the way we were close, but I didn't listen. My mother would even ask what had happened between Kevin and I would not give her any answers because I also didn't know what had happened between Kevin and I. Mr. Spencer once invited me to one of his business trips because his wife was not feeling well to travel. So, as his tax manager, yes, I eventually took his job offer, he asked me to go with him. When I told my parents about that, there was a huge argument between Mom and Dad. My father thought it was a great opportunity for me to learn more about business, and that Mr. Spencer had been a good mentor, while my mother was against everything. My mother said Mr. Spencer was up to something, and if I was not careful, I would become like one of his past victims. Only if I had listened to my mother, sick. So Mr. Spencer and I went to the United Arab Emirate, UAE, for the business trip. I fell in so much love with the country. It was so beautiful. I even wished to move to it one day with Kevin, of course. Mr. Spencer booked us separate rooms, which I appreciated a lot. Later on, he asked me to wear it nicely. I was going to be his date at some business gala dinner. The man just did the unthinkable and gave me money to purchase a dress. As much as I was not comfortable with the way he was looking at me, I loved the dress I had chosen. After the gala dinner, we went to our separate rooms. My heart and soul longed for Kevin, but he wasn't there. I tried calling him with an international number. He answered, but when he heard it was me, he dropped the call, so can you imagine how heartbroken I was when he did that? As I had finished taking a shower, Mr. Spencer knocked into my room and asked me to help him with something urgently. Mind you, that time I was only in my hotel gown, so I went to open the door to let him in. He stared at me like he was looking at something he liked or loved. It really made me uncomfortable and felt like I was not dressed. I asked what he wanted me to help him with. He didn't answer me. Instead, he just complimented me and my body. That somehow made me feel beautiful because no guy had ever complimented me or my body, not even my ex-boyfriend. Well, my ex-boyfriend was a womanizer, so he never cared about how my body looked, but instead, he would always find a way to make me doubt myself. Almost my whole life, I had been body shamed. You know, always being told and reminded how imperfect your body shape is and how bad I looked. So hearing someone or having someone compliment me and my body always does something to me. It raises my self-esteem a little. But on another thought, I would doubt someone who compliments my body would say it genuinely and mean it. I mean, because my ex-boyfriend would compliment me whenever he wanted some intimacy. Then I would think he meant it. But things change whenever we get into an argument, or I find out that he was cheating. He would remind me how bad looking I was and how my body was badly shaped compared to the girls that he was cheating on me with. But the way Mr. Spencer was looking at me made me think that he meant it, and he had been complimenting me since we went to the gala dinner that he had asked me to accompany him to. The way his stares were intense, they made me uncomfortable, so I excused myself. So I would go to the bathroom and change to proper clothes, because I wouldn't, and I couldn't change in front of him since the hotel room has only one bedroom with an ensuite. When I got into an ensuite, I was able to breathe since I was holding my breath and felt goosebumps over my body. I didn't know why I felt like that, but I did. I took them as my mentor and my father's friend. Was I falling for him? But nah, I wasn't. After I'd changed, I joined him in the room. We started working, going through what he wanted us to go through, but I felt his eyes stinging on my body. So I tried to distract him and get him to shift his focus. I asked if he had eaten so we could order. Instead of answering my question, he started touching my cheeks and brushing them. My heart was beating so fast to a point that I didn't even know how to react and what to do, so I just went mute. He started complimenting me again, telling me some sweet words. My mind just froze. I didn't even think of the circumstances that would come if his wife was to find out what her husband was doing. I felt butterflies on my stomach when he kissed me. To tell the truth, I don't remember and know what happened after, but I found myself kissing him back but backed out after. I had realized that I had made a huge mistake. I had a huge love crush on his stepson, and I was still heartbroken by the fact that he had ghosted me for no valid reason. Wasn't that being a coward? The stepdad kissed me again, and that time it went too far because I was also feeling the heat. I had never gotten a kiss or been intimate with a male person after my ex-boyfriend, who I broke up with 2 years ago. So imagine the drought and hunger for sexual engagement I had. It was bad. The kiss got intense to a point that no one was thinking about anything but was in the moment, and we made love. To tell the truth, I didn't regret any moment that I had with Mr. Spencer. Why would you feel guilty for something you both did, and you both were adults? Plus, I was single and sexually frustrated, so he helped me remember that I was still alive and I was still a woman, even though he was a married man, but I cared less. One thing that I had regretted was that we were careless and too caught up in the moment, to a point that we even forgot to use a protection. I didn't know if the guy had a sickness or what, meaning I risked getting sick and pregnant just to get in the moment. I was a fool, right? Months later, the thing that had started in the hotel room in the United Arab Emirate, UAE, between Mr. Spencer and I kept going on until we went back home. I won't lie and say I didn't enjoy every moment of it, but I did. Yes, what we did was wrong in every way, but I had a good time. Actually, I had the most splendid time of my life. We destroyed a lot of relationships, and I would always feel so bad about it. During those months, Mr. Spencer and I continued seeing each other secretly, regardless of the outcome of it. So one cold summer day, Mr. Spencer had invited me to his house. His wife was in the hospital because she had not been feeling too well, and that led her to the hospital. So as I was chilling and cuddling with Mr. Spencer, we heard the door open, but we ignored it thinking it was the house helper. She knew what was happening between Mr. Spencer and I. To my surprise, it was not the helper, but Kevin himself. I didn't know how to react, really, but his facial expression was full of anger and disappointment, I think. He didn't say anything. Instead, he asked to speak to me on the side. I didn't know what he wanted to speak about, and I didn't care because I had blocked and deleted his number. I mean, he had ghosted me for way too long. Yes, I still had those feelings for him, but I got tired of waiting for the train that was not going anywhere or making any progress. When we spoke on the side, he asked what I was doing with his stepdad and why I didn't respect his mother's marriage and house. We argued until he got pretty angry, and I accidentally got a slap from him. I couldn't believe it, I thought I was dreaming. The guy I had feelings for slapped me, though it was accidentally, but he did it in the end. After he slapped me, he furiously went to his stepdad and started attacking him. It was a real mess, I tell you. After some time, Kevin left and told us that he would destroy us. What hurt me the most was when he started crying and told me that he was actually looking forward to making me his girlfriend, but he didn't know how to express it without me feeling some type of way or rejecting him. No lies, that made me feel really bad, because I had thought he just ghosted me for months. Then when he found me with his stepdad, he confessed his feelings for me. It didn't make any sense, and it still doesn't. A few days later, I got a text from Kevin asking me to meet up with him. I was a bit skeptical because I didn't know what he wanted to say or do, so I took my little sister with me and went to Aurora Park just in case he was still angry and would want to slap me again. I knew I would have my loud sister, so he couldn't do anything bad in front of a child. So when we got there, well, we already found him there. He was no longer angry as he was when he saw me at Mr. Spencer's house. So we talked, and he told me the reason why he ghosted me. He also confessed his feelings for me. I also told him how I felt, but there was only one problem. I had fallen for Mr. Spencer, and it was really hard for me to decide who I wanted to be with. I mean, I liked Mr. Spencer for his tender attention and care, and I loved Kevin in another way. Was I being a hypocrite and an ungrateful bastard? Weeks later, I heard that Mrs. Spencer, Kevin's mother, found out about the affair that I had with her husband, and she didn't take it too well. Mind you, she was going in and out of hospitals because she had a heart problem, so when she heard about the affair, she got a heart attack and passed on. It was really an emotional and sad period for Kevin and Mr. Spencer. Worst part, Kevin blamed me for his mother's passing, and he had all the right to. I blamed myself for everything that was happening at Kevin's house. I mean, his siblings had lost the only parent they had. A lot changed. My parents also found out about what was happening between Kevin's stepdad and I. My relationship with my parents changed for the worst. My mother kept reminding me how careless I was, and that she had warned me about Mr. Spencer. It was really bad. On the other hand, my father was really disappointed at me, and there was nothing I could have done to make things right because Kevin had lost his mother because of my selfishness and hunger for sexual interaction. Things went south for me to a point that I found myself in between everything. I didn't know if I was going in or going out, if the sun was rising or setting. It was a mess. Yes, I was also part of the facade that had taken Kevin's mother's life, but Mr. Spencer was also part of it, but my parents didn't see that. Instead, I was the only one in the wrong. I once received long text messages from one of Kevin's sisters telling me how much I had disappointed Kevin. I knew I had disappointed Kevin to the core, and it was really eating me up because he once had told me, or must I say, he jokingly told me that he was seeing a future with me. But I took that as a joke. I mean, we were friends. Yes, we would act like lovers whenever we were together. But that was it. Not knowing or noticing that he was confessing his feelings, or that he saw me as his future lover. I didn't know, or must I say I didn't pay any attention to his hints, so I did the dumbest thing I had ever done in my whole life. Months passed. I tried speaking to Kevin to apologize to him, but I couldn't reach out to him. I mean, he had gone back to Jersey City full-time since his mother was no more so. He didn't have any reason to visit Aurora anymore. It was really hard for me because my father had told me to stop working for Mr. Spencer and go back to my old job, of which I didn't want to do because despite what had happened between Mr. Spencer and I, he was paying me well for my service. And that added fuel in an already blazing fire. During those months when I was at home, bored, so I decided to check my social media because it had been a long time since I had checked my socials to see what was trending and going on in the world. The first thing I saw were pictures of me and Mr. Spencer. Someone had posted them and wrote a lot of bad things about me. I suspected Kevin, because he was the only person who was pretty much angry at me and his stepdad. People were dragging my name to the mud to a point that I found myself in a very depressing stage. I wanted to just go away to an unknown continent where no one would know me. The way my name was dragged, it was like I was the only one on the wrong. They were not calling Mr. Spencer by names, but I was called names. I was called a homewrecker and a murderer, because Kevin's mother had lost her life because of the affair that had happened. I was furious, angry, and hurt, because whoever did that really ruined my life and my reputation. Days later, I decided to take my savings and use them to find out who had linked the pictures of me and Mr. Spencer, only to find out that Mr. Spencer's house had cameras. The whole house had cameras, including the bedrooms, so the pictures were linked by the helper with Kevin's sister's help. My name was tarnished to a point that if I were to try and pick myself up, it would be hard. About a week later, my father told me that Mr. Spencer had been arrested because he was running an illegal business, while he took the one I was helping him with as a front. But I was also caught up in that crossfire because I was helping him with his business books, so I was asked to testify against him, or I would also get arrested for helping a criminal like him. I mean, I didn't know he was a criminal or was running an illegal business. All I did was help him balance his business's spreadsheets and tax payments. Was I wrong for doing that? As I was going through that hard, depressing phase of my life, I decided to ask for forgiveness from my parents and made a video of myself apologizing to Mrs. Spencer's children for what I did. I knew everything had consequences, but I never thought it would have come to that point, so I had to fix myself and try claiming back my life. After I had made the apology video, I sent it to Kevin's sister. I had her number when she texted me a long text swearing at me. I was feeling guilty. I should have listened to my mother, but I got selfish and ruined someone else's home. Worst part was that my suspicions about Mr. Spencer became true because I had suspected that he was doing something, but I ignored all that and fell in the trap of his bed with him. I tried calling Kevin after some time, with the hope that he would at least answer my call so I would apologize. Luckily, he did answer, but he didn't have my number anymore, so I had to start by explaining myself to him. So we talked and asked him to meet up with me so I would be able to show him how much I regretted everything that had happened between us. If I didn't give up on how I felt for him, and if I didn't fall for Mr. Spencer's tricks and traps, maybe, just maybe, I would be living my happily ever after with Kevin. I allowed the old man to manipulate me, and I was too naive, I know, and I lost a precious and perfect man just because I was weak and the stepdad was there to satisfy or give me the satisfaction that I had never had. Yes, my ex was giving me intimacy, but it was never to satisfy me but himself. After a week, Kevin and I met, and we managed to have a civilized talk. I told him about my past and how it made me weak to hear someone compliment me. Not that he never complimented me like telling me I was beautiful, but he had never complimented the whole me. I don't know if you get what I am trying to say. I had disappointed Kevin in the worst way possible. He forgave me, but he told me that he wanted nothing to do with me. The damage I had done was way beyond repairs because it was never going to bring his mother back. It really made me feel so bad, and I regret every action I did. It didn't only take Kevin's mother, but it also distanced my family. And I lost my future lover. Just like that for just one silly mistake. Please give me tips on how I should have avoided this and how will I overcome this. I am stuck and I need help on how to deal with the guilt and regret.